Alofa Lava, and welcome to another episode of Behind the Lava Lava, the podcast that explores the stories behind the people and cultures of the Pacific. I'm your host, Michael Tan, and I'm joined by my co-hosts, Spencer and Milford. This episode is presented by Matai Watches, a luxury timepiece brand that embodies the essence of the Pacific Islands. Today, we're excited to bring you an interview with a very special guest, a Marine Corps recruiter, Staff Sergeant Helenia Porter, who is joining us all the way from beautiful American Samoa. We're going to get to know Staff Sergeant Porter, hear about her Marine Corps experiences, and how she's giving back to her community in American Samoa. Plus, we'll learn about the challenges and opportunities facing young people in the territory who are considering a career in the military. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an inspiring conversation on this episode of Behind the Lava Lava. So I'd like to start off with an icebreaker question. And today, our question is, what's the weirdest encounter you've ever had? So we'll go around the room and I'll start it off. What is the weirdest encounter you've had? So I believe it was back in 2012. I was visiting family in New Zealand and I went clubbing with my cousins. So I was at a club in New Zealand. It was a Polynesian club and I was dancing, doing my thing, and this lady approached me and started dancing with me. And then after dancing, she pulled me off to the side. And then she told me that God told me that we are meant to be together. So for me, I was taken back. I was shocked. At the time, I was gay because I've never had someone tell me before. It was something weird. It was a weird experience. So what I did tell her after that, I told her, "Hey, my cousins are calling me. I'll see you again. I'll see you later." So I ended up not going back to her, but the day after, me and my family had like a gathering at a restaurant, and I saw her. I don't know if she was stalking me, but I saw her in that restaurant. She just happened to be there. And I, the whole time I was embarrassed and I ignored her. So that was my weird encounter.
Okay. That was quite interesting for you, Michael. It's so what happened after that? After that was the last encounter you had with her ever after that?
Oh yeah, because I wasn't from New Zealand, so I never saw her ever. So
So you just left and that was it. Okay. I think my weird encounter, I don't think I'm the only one that kind of experienced it, especially when you're on 24-hour duty. I think we've all been there, done that. It's the I don't know what it is, but somehow when you're just making those rounds around the barracks, there's little things. I don't know what they are. They just start I guess, make appearances. I don't know what they are. It could be random things. It could be a person. It could be a thing. And I remember one particular duty. I think I was just tired. I think we're all tired at some point during the duty. Your mind starts to wander off, I guess. And I think the one thing that stood out for me was just this random person just standing there smiling. And I'm like, okay, I must be really tired right now. I must be really tired. And the moment you blink and you blink again, there's nothing. There's really nothing. And like I said, I don't think I'm the only one that probably experienced that type of thing. And I think that's always an event that stuck with me. When I'm on duty again, I'm like, I'm going to have one of these episodes again. And I don't know, maybe the building was haunted and I didn't even know. Typical Samoan, the superstition, it comes in play too. I'm like, it's a sign something's coming or, something's going to happen. So I think that was probably the weirdest one because it still stuck with me. And I'm like, I'm still thinking about it. It comes up randomly. Now that I'm back home for work, it's, we're all about, superstition, like something, if something like that happens, You're like, I'm gonna ask my mom what it means, and then she's gonna have her own explanation, and you're like, you know what, maybe I should have not asked you. But yeah, I think that's my take on that question. It's a good question. I didn't want to be reminded of it, but here we are.
So did you actually end up asking your mom about that particular one? What was her take on that?
So my mom is very, I guess it's all our moms, like Samoan mothers, Pacific Islander mothers are very, like, they have their own explanation. And the basic, I guess the bottom line is that, hey, you got to be careful. You're alone most of the time. I'm like, okay, that it didn't really make me feel any better, but at least it's something. I guess it's a warning is what she's trying to say. Especially I'm very I guess independent in a way. I like to do things myself, do everything. And she's like, you know what? Maybe you need to always ask for help sometimes. It's not to make you feel less, but it's to have all these extra hands. I think it's we have a very famous saying where we say, "Eretu whamangutangatsa." We're not always just like mountains. We need people to help us. I think I guess in a way it was a warning.
That's way cool. I guess my answer to this question off the top of my head is what's weird about this is that it's an odd interaction, but it's even more weird that this happened more than one time. So long time ago, I was a missionary for my church. I was walking around, just asking people if I can share the message with them and whatnot. And on multiple occasions, this was in Edmonton, Alberta, I would have random people ask me if I worship Orgasmo or something. And I guess like what it was, I've never Googled it or nothing, but I guess like the story behind it is somebody made a parody of Mormons or Mormon missionaries where one of them like goes off and worships some being called Orgasmo or something like that. I never got the full story, but I had no clue what it was, but I'd just be walking around some 19-year-old trying to share a message and some weirdos is like, "Oh, are you guys with Orgasmo?" I'm like, "No, don't know I don't know who that is," but anyways, threw me off, and especially when I heard it more than one time, it was really odd.
I'm trying to think as hard as I can, but I don't really have any weird encounters. I guess because most of the time, like I said, growing up, I was ignorant of my situation, but then I started picking up on things and became aware of my environment wherever I was, traveling all around the world and interacting with different types of people. So I never really put myself in certain situations, or even if I found myself in a particular situation, it was just normal to me, or I kind of anticipated whatever happened in front of me to happen. So yeah, I can't really think of any weird encounter.
All right, thank you everyone for sharing. So Helenia, before we get into the Marine Corps stuff, could you tell us more about your background, where you're from, and who your parents are?
So, we'll start with the basics. My name is Helenia Porter. I am from Auasi. Not too sure if you guys know where that is. It's far east, where the Auasi Harbor is. That's exactly where, or to go to Anu, that's where I'm from. My parents are Marston and Wilma Porter. My dad used to teach, so I think that a lot of people know my dad here. He's spent 50 plus years in the education system. So if your parents, your uncles, your aunts, they will probably know my dad somewhere. And I am going on to my big 3-0 this year. So, big 3-0. It's a big number for me. And I've been in the Marine Corps 10 years this year. So coming this May, it'll be halfway to retirement, as they say. And I am, I think this is my last year on recruiting. So technically our duty is 3 years, just like most special duty assignments. It's 3 years, but looking at the way the Marine Corps is moving, they're probably going to ask a lot of recruiters to extend. So that's probably going to be my case. But as far as like education wise, I went to Whangaitua High School for 1 year, and that was my freshman year. But I graduated from Wanalua High School. Yay! Wanalua High School in 2011. So I was a Menehune, fan. I went to college too as well in Hawaii at Kapi'olani. And from there, after that, I went straight into the Marine Corps. So, yeah, that's pretty much a little bit about me. I mean, if we're talking about siblings, I have just sisters. I do have a sister in the Army. She's definitely a role model. And then I have another sister in Hawaii and Alaska and one here. I'm also married. I almost forgot that. Just recently got married to an Army soldier as well. And that's about it. It's not much to me.
I graduated from Wanalua 05.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I probably wasn't yeah, you graduated way early. Not saying you're old.
Now let's get straight into the Marine Corps aspect of this interview. So what are the basic requirements to joining the Marine Corps? I know there are some, but what's on top of your head? What are some requirements?
So the basics are, it comes down to the ASVAB. You had to have a passing score of 31. I always encourage they score higher than 31. It's just how the test system works, because when the line scores comes back, that's where we see the details, like what do you qualify for as far as jobs. The other, height and weight. It's a big one here. It's a good thing and a bad thing. And I'm sure it's not just the Marine Corps that, struggles with this part. It's across all the branches. And then there's screening questions that I ask them as far as like if they are physically and medically qualified, if they're asthmatic, if they have any broken bones, the medical portion. If there are things that might just stop their whole process, we will see if there's a waiver that can be ran. But those are the basics. And of course, this is one that lingers. If they are all about the Marine Corps, the interest, that's the biggest part. Nobody talks about that part as much here specifically because there is a very big influence of Army. It's pretty much, there's an Army unit here. Army JLTC, most high schools have it. Public high schools have it. It's just how it's been. Statistically, historically, a lot of enlistments out of American Samoa has been with the Army branch. And, it's a learning process. Not everybody knows about the Marine Corps here. Surprisingly, there's still this misconception about what the Marines is all about. But those are the basics, the test, the height and weight, and then medical, physical questions to include anything, your age, dependents. Because if you compare the Marine Corps to the other branches, we still have like the youngest military members. Our age group is from 17 to 28. Everyone else, they can go up to the 30s, the 40s I've seen, but that's okay. Each branch is catered to what they're looking for, what they need, what their requirements are. The Marine Corps is just very specific and very set in their standards.
Now, I come across this question once in a while, and I wanted to ask you straight up, is there such a thing called an ASVAB waiver? Because I've heard of a lot of, during my time, a lot of kids in American Samoa, if 8 were to take the ASVAB, maybe 2 would pass. And I've heard from the experiences of others how they've tried to take the ASVAB and pass with a 31. For me, the ASVAB wasn't hard. Like I didn't even try and scored a 68, and I managed to get a good occupation out of it. And what's your answer to that question?
So, specific to the Marine Corps, we don't do ASVAB waivers. I think it's the biggest, I it's not a letdown. It's just, like I said, we're so set in our standards, we will not change it. As what waivers for the other services is a thing. I do know because next door is the Army office. They waive those who score between 21 to 30. I think it's what they call category 4 scores. So those are the ones that are limited to certain jobs because of that waiver. So you're looking at maybe like supply jobs, certain jobs in the admin field. But that's just me like learning from what I see. I'm not saying I'm like an expert on the Army recruiting, but for us specifically, can't do waivers. A lot of applicants that have come in are scared of that score. For they think they can't do better is what I've seen. But I always encourage like, hey, if you can't make it here, I can always suggest somewhere else. It's just the work is part of the job. You can't just hold on to some of these kids, some of these applicants because of their score. So I just like, hey, just move along. You can come back later. I'm not going to stop you from there. That's the thing about recruiting. It's going to be, it's going to keep going whether, the kids joins the Marines or not.
And you've spoken on the physical fitness standards. What's the basic need for like men and women on the fitness side?
I'm not too sure about if you guys have taken it for our Marine vets here. There's this thing called the initial strength test, which is the IST, where you have to run 1.5 miles. You have to do pull-ups, but the pull-ups is different for male and female. And then the plank is gender neutral. So everyone has the same time. Going back to the run, for males, you need to run it in 12 minutes and 30 seconds, under that. And then for the females, you have to run it 13 minutes and 30 seconds. That's the biggest issue we're running into here. And then the pull-ups, the girls just need to do one pull-up. And I'm sure with all of us, we have some, experience in, PT. It is hard for females to get pull-ups. It's just the reality of it. But we can do pull-ups. That's just the fact of it. And then for the males, you just need to do at least 3. And then coming to the planks, you just need a pass with a minute, and that is it. It's not too bad. I think everyone is just trying to just meet it. That's all there is. Once you get to boot camp, that's where you get your PT up, your physical fitness, your nutrition. It will come, the works will be there. But I think the PT test is also another thing why a lot of applicants stray from the Marine Corps, is because they know they can't make it. They cannot make it. And like I said, I have no issues just moving them along, I don't want them to, wait around any longer, waste their time, waste my time. But that's the PT standards for us.
Yeah, one of the alluring factors of why I joined the Marine Corps was the benefits. What are some Marine Corps benefits, such as healthcare and educations? What does a Marine offers?
Okay. So there's also this big misconception out there that we don't make the same as every other branch. No, everybody makes the same depending on their rank and time in service. And of course, that's one of the most common reasons why a lot of applicants come join the military. It doesn't have to be the Marines. It's the financial part of it. It's stable. It's stability they're looking for. So there's that, financial. The other second most common is education. With all of us here, we know tuition assistance is in a way free money. So you can continue going to school while working at the same time in the military. And then the third one for the Marine Corps, this is common, but not as common, while being a recruiter since I've been here, is the challenge part of it. I think a lot of people don't want to earn the title. It might be alluring to some, but for me, that was it. That was definitely it. I wasn't the most fit when I went in, but I'm like, you know what? The Marine Corps has taught me that I can do whatever I want, any way I want. That's why a lot of applicants that come in, they tend to like, oh my gosh, okay, I just want these top two. Financial education. But what about the third? And I'm like, what exactly are you looking for? And they're like, well, I don't want to join this branch because of this one. So that's why I'm here to talk to you, the Marines. I heard you guys are tough. I was like, yes, that is true. But what is it about being tough that attracts you? And then everyone is going to provide me with a different answer each time. Some may say like, hey, I have so many family members in another branch. I want to be something different. And someone else can come in and like, you know what? My friends, my family has always made fun of my weight, things like that. Another can come in and say, I always feel like I can do something bigger, something different, something outside of the box. So that's where that challenge part comes in. The others all depends. Some may say they want to be part of something, like pride of belonging. A lot of Marines have that pride that you just cannot get rid of. And it portrays a lot in how they do things, how they walk, how they talk. And it attracts applicants. It attracts kids. They're like, man, I want to just be like, her, just be like him. The other thing is the uniform. I will stand by that fact. We have some of the best looking uniforms there is. And it's more of a lot of the applicants that come through, families do not support them. They don't support the fact that they chose the Marines. And that's where I come in. And I'm like, hey, they might not be part of the process right now, but I guarantee you they will be at the end. Because they will finally realize why you want this so bad. And it has its advantages and disadvantages, because throughout the whole process, the applicant is like, oh, I feel so down because my parents, my family, my friends are not supporting me. I was like, I am. What? So you don't want my support? So, but it has its ups and downs. It's more ups here. It's always good to see Samoans in the Marines. There's definitely not a lot of us in the Marine Corps, but it's a personal agenda for me here as well to try and get as much, more qualified applicants to join.
Yeah, I believe Milford and I can speak on that Marine part of being instilled that pride and the leadership that we are taught. And I'd like to add on, for those who are interested, that even after your time in the military, when you leave and officially become a veteran and you separate, there are also other opportunities for you, such as disability, if you are able to apply and get approved for it on disability, or you can use your GI Bill for education. You get paid to go to college, basically. So on top of that, there's two routes. You either go to college and get paid, or you work and still go to college and get paid again. So that's a big plus. Also, there's this program called Vocational Rehab. I forgot what it's VRE, and they help you find a job. They help you through the process once you get out to find employment. They can also pay for your education on what job you're trying to get. Say you want to be a lawyer. Instead of using your GI Bill, they will pay for your classes for you to become a lawyer. So before I move on, I want to give it up to my co-hosts if they have any questions.
Not so much questions, just a few things to say on what you touched on. Well, first of all, my background really quick, because I've probably recounted this a few times in some past episodes. But so I've been in the Army, on the reserve side, going on 18 years. But I'm very familiar with the Marine Corps because I grew up in 29 Palms, California. And this is one of those things that I've had to get an education on being part of this podcast is that I didn't know that it was a rare thing for Samoans to be in the Marine Corps, because being a Afakasi, growing up with my Samoan half of the family, all living in 29 Palms, California, when I had family in the military, they were in the Marine Corps. My dad's Palangi, he was in the Army, but everyone else in my family that I knew in the Marines were all on my Samoan side, and they were all in the Marine Corps. So I just had this unique situation. I didn't know that was rare. I thought the Marines had dibs on Polynesians or something, but that's because that's the community that I grew up in. And so realizing that that wasn't the case, like, getting to know my cast members and all my friends and family, being like, oh no, it's opposite. It's more Army over there. Had no idea. But I always grew up like, not going to retell this whole story, but like, I did originally intend to join the Marines. Life didn't pan out a certain way. Army ended up being the direction I went. But yeah, like, you're not lying when it comes to certain things. It's like other branches don't even need to bother kidding themselves. You guys have the best uniforms. It's like every time. Look, I love the Army. I'm proud of the Army. I've been in this long, but it frustrates me that I am on my third dress uniform since I joined in 2004, because the Army is always like, oh, you know what? We need a new look. We're going from the greens to these blues so we can look like a ripoff of the Air Force / Marines, or, oh, now we're going to go to the pinks and greens so we look like we did in World War II. I'm like, dude, stop updating it. I don't want to buy any more stuff. I'm not buying another uniform. But the Marines, they can sit proud knowing like, no, we know our stuff is dope. We don't have to change nothing. And even looking at my work uniforms, even, I joined when we had ACUs. Then we went to the ugly, I joined when we had BDUs. Then we went to the ACUs that were ugly. They didn't work. Then we had multicam in Afghanistan. And then they're like, you know what, this looks cool, but we want a different contract that we can own. So we're going to get the OCPs. But the Marines, that whole time, they started it when they were like, let's get our desert digitals and our forest digitals. And they've had those ever since, because they work and they look cool. So I admire that. But anyways, on the recruiting side, it's funny because I remember there's this meme that went around where it showed like recruiting standards during peacetime. And you've probably seen this, I'm sure. Shows Captain America, like just a picture of Captain America. And then it's recruiting standards during wartime. And it's like Beetlejuice or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, that's me. I was the Beetlejuice, because I joined the Army, and I am positive to this day that I never passed the prerequisite like PT test, because I just remember like huffing and puffing, and my recruiter's just like looking at his stopwatch, and I'm like gasping, dying for breath. I'm like, did I make it? And he just like looks at his stopwatch and he just like shakes his head. I never looked at what the actual time was. I'm pretty positive I never passed officially, but they were like, look, we need more bodies downrange, so you're going to basic. So anyways, just wanted to throw that out there.
Fellow Wanlu grad, KCC attendee, let's take it back for a minute. So at that point in your life, attending KCC, what got you attracted to the Marine Corps? Like, what made you make that decision to join, the greatest branch of them all?
Yes. Like, love the question. It's surprisingly, I think I've only been asked like 5 times since I've been here why I joined. I can literally can count it on my hands. I think it's because it's so fast paced here in a way. Everyone's trying to make something of themselves. But for me, well, I think the biggest reason was I just didn't want to join the Army because my sister was already there. And that's okay. It's everybody has their own, journey in life, if you want to put it that way. I literally called up the Marine Corps recruiting office, and I'm like, hey, I want to come talk to somebody. I want to see what the requirements are. And they say, oh yeah, I could just come on in. And I remember I went with my friend Jennifer. I think she went to, oh my gosh, I forgot what school she went to. But we met at KCC. We met at KCC, Samoan girl as well. And we went there. I walked past like the other recruiting offices, and I just went straight in and started talking. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is exactly what I was looking for, because I was close to graduating, and I'm like, I have no idea what to do. I have nothing. And I'm pretty sure, I didn't want to be a letdown to my family. And I just didn't want to have that. I'm like, man, I'm about to graduate college and I have nothing else going. And it's the discipline part, I guess you can say. No plan in life. Nothing speaks to me. I'm like, oh gosh. And military was never part of the plan. That I'll be honest about. It was never part of the plan. Even in high school, I was just planning to go to college. I did get accepted to like Penn State, but I never went through with it. And after that, I'm like, you know what? I think I need some structure, need some discipline, need something to push myself away from whatever this funk is. And I didn't see a lot of people my year join the Marines. And it was mostly the other branches. It was just a mix of the other branches. And then from there, my family was not happy about it, but they supported me in their own way, even if they didn't speak to me for a little bit. But, to come out successful, boot camp is like a rite of passage for some of us. For me, it was, like I said, I wasn't the most fit. I wasn't the most ready, but my recruiter believed in me enough that like, hey, you will make it in boot camp. You will be fine, And then the rest is history from there.
And just real quick, you still keep in touch with your old recruiter? You want to shout him out? You want?
Oh my gosh. I don't think he's not a recruiter anymore. I think after me, he left. So I don't think he's anywhere else.
Was there anything
I wasn't the best poolee either. I never showed up to anything. Maybe once or twice, and I think that's why they were a little worried, but they still believed in me. But it was Sergeant Kalani Stone. After I left, he was gone. I think he EAS'd or left the Marine Corps. Did you go through which RSS did you go through to enlist?
Pro City.
Do you remember? Pro City? Oh, okay. Because I was Honolulu.
Was there anything you picked up from Sergeant Stone that you kind of incorporate in your own recruiter ways now?
Yeah, I think in a way, he for sure was a runner. I remember that. He was definitely a runner. So I just picked that up. I wasn't like I said, I wasn't the most fit, but running, it's free. And he was definitely a runner. I'm like, you know what? I want to be like you, And running is a great workout for a lot of us. It's free. It keeps you moving. And I know for sure he was trying to run us to the ground when we had PTs, or the ones I show up to. He was like, you know what? Now that Poolie Porter is here, we're gonna run her to the ground because she keeps not showing up.
I just want to shout out my recruiters. So at the time, it was Gunny Andrew and Tanner Cruz and Gunny Julius Nuffle. So shout out to them. Hope you guys are doing good out there. So my mom was one of those people who was trying to stop me from joining the Marine Corps. And I bet you came across a lot of those parents who stopped their kids from joining the Marine Corps. And I believe, there's that misconception that those who join the Marine Corps will go off to war and die. How do you address these misconceptions or stereotypes that in the Marine Corps that potential recruits have, or even the parents have?
Yes, that's a great question. It's a common one here. Thankfully, I think lately a lot of applicants, a lot of kids have started realizing there's much more to the Marine Corps than what they see on television, social media. So this is my biggest like giveaway / situation I give to the applicants. I'm like, hey, if it comes down to it, if it's between life and death, if you can choose to save someone very important to you, by going to a combat situation / war, are you gonna let them die or are you gonna save them? it's an iffy situation for most. And then I give them time to like, hey, you know what? Maybe you're right. I will fight for this person to live. I'll put myself on the line, put my work, whatever I do in the military on the line for this person. I truly, want them to live. It's it's a really sensitive topic. I know for most parents, but they have to realize like, hey, this is what your applicant wants to do. Like, it's not just going to be infantry or whatever, what the misconception is. There's a lot more jobs in the Marine Corps than a lot of people, believe. It's also like a goal of mine here to try and get kids in like technical fields, not just, infantry. But that infantry life is so alluring to a lot of the kids here. And like I said, I think that's where the challenge part comes in. They want to do it. They want to be part of it. They want to just you know what? I'm a Marine. I've joined the Marines. I'm infantry. I can tell people that I am like a rifleman. Like they want that. And I'm like, I will support you all the way, just so you're okay with this decision. You're 100% like set that you want this specific job. But it, like I said, I try to give them that situation. Like, hey, if it comes down to life and death situation, what is your move? I was like, so you're willing to let this person die, really, is what you're saying, if you give me the other answer. But each situation comes, and I just adapt to what they're saying. And they're like, well, I don't want a job that will put me in the front of the line. I'm like, I got you. You're just I'll find a job for you, but you will be a Marine. Just got to do the job and just earn the title. That's what it comes down to.
I remember I've touched on this before, but I always loved that Marines really do earn their title. I've said this in the past where I love how when you guys go to boot, you're recruits. When I went to basic, I was a private right away. They're like, hey, private, do this, private, do that. I'm like, you're not a private yet in the Marines. You're not a Marine yet until you graduate boot camp, right? And so like you had to earn that title. Like you're just recruit up until then. But in similar situations, just as far as I've had friends approach me that would join the Army at different times, or they would ask like, what experiences are there? And I remember I had this one guy who even was saying, yeah, my family's not really supporting me. My friends are telling me I'm dumb, because he wanted to be like a combat engineer or something like that. And he's like, I think I might do a mechanic job or this or that, because apparently it'll get me a better job on the civilian side. So I just told him, look, I can't speak for everybody's experience, but let me tell you mine. I'm a reservist. I joined to be a mechanic, and how that's and that's what I got trained as. I'm a mechanic on paper, but the Army has never really used me as a mechanic, and they just use you for whatever they need you to fill in at the time, depending on the unit you're in, or etc. I'm like, experiences vary. But I said, look, how many times that mechanic MOS has translated to my civilian life? Absolutely zero. I am not a mechanic on the civilian side. Anything that has to do with my technical job in the Army has nothing to do with, it's never translated over to my civilian life. So what it boiled down to is, what experience do you want out of the Army? And this is what I told this guy. I was like, what experience do you want? And it boiled down to him. I just want to be a soldier. I always thought that'd be something cool. That's something I wanted to be. I'm like, well, dude, if that's the case, go get your soldier experience. Be a combat engineer if that's what you want. And because look, best case scenario, it's the best job you'll ever have. Worst case scenario, it's still a full-time job that has pay and perks for you and your family. And by giving it minimum 2 years active duty, you get 100% post 9/11 GI Bill. So your education is covered after you get out. We have a guaranteed job for at least the next 4 years. That's the worst case scenario. So I'm like, go for it. I guess I amped him up too much, because he came back to the work shift the next day. He's like, yeah, I went to my recruiter. I just signed up to be infantry. I'm like, whoa. Okay, look. All right, keep that same energy if that's what you want, man. That's cool. I'm glad you're getting the experience you want. I wasn't trying to, amp you up all the way, but yeah, if that's what you want, go get it. But it's like, if you want to join the military for a certain technical skill, it's there for you. If you want it just for a specific experience, and especially on the Marine Corps side, I know that it has that to offer. That's there for you as well. I'll never forget when I was about to graduate high school. They had this like career day. They roll in all the military recruiters. I never forgot this to this day, where Air Force gets up, does their spiel, Army gets up, does their spiel. But the Marine Corps recruiter comes in and he's like, look, we're in the middle of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. And he's like, look, I'm not going to tell you that I'm going to give you this for education or this for that, but I'm going to promise you that you'll become a Marine. And it was just like this solid, like mic drop moment. Like everyone in the room was just quiet. And I was like, look, I didn't end up joining the Marine Corps, but at the time I thought I was just preaching to the choir, but I never forgot that moment. It's like, I've got immense respect for Marines and what they do, especially for moments like that, recruiters like yourself, making that clear what your branch has to offer. And it's something respectable.
And I just wanted to add on to that. I appreciate the support and everything. It's not that I'm here to, I am here for the Marine Corps, but every branch has a little oomph, as they say. But it's going to be competition here. There's always going to be friendly competition, but that's what it is. There's only one Marine recruiter here, and I'm versing 3-4 other recruiters of one branch. And I have work cut out for me. I will be honest about that. But that's where, it comes in. We have that mic drop moment, as you put it. Somebody's going to be like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go right next door instead. Because they see, I know they don't see a lot of people coming in. And, that's just the reality of it. But they're like, you know what? I don't know what they offer, but I will find out. And I've always, heard that the Marines are, they are a jack of all trades. They can do a little bit of everything that other branches can do. We are a specialized branch. That's what we do. So if, Army needs someone to go in to do something they are not able to do or can't do, guess who's going? The Marines. And if Air Force, the other branches need something that, the Marines can do, we are there. And that's the idea too that I try to sell. Like, hey, we can do everything. You just gotta be you're gonna have to put the work in. The work is everything. When I'm talking about work, I'm talking about physical, mental. I think the mental part is the biggest, because as it stands, Samoans are really strong people. We just don't, the unfortunate part, the standards don't always work for us, but we are definitely strong. I hear from my new Marines that just came back. They're on recruiter's assistance right now. They talk about the drill instructors coming up to them. They're like, hey, where are you from? And they tell them where they're from. They're like, I like you guys. I like Samoan recruits. They're really strong. They're always in leadership positions. They're always leading the platoon. There's gonna be one or a couple that you'll see as squad leaders, as guide, and that's something I always want to represent well when I send applicants, kids to boot camp. And I have some drill instructor friends as well that'll call me. I'm like, hey, you got a really good kid here. I was like, yeah, but don't IT him now, since you know me. But it's that's the fun part, But the serious part is that we're portraying ourselves, even in the other branches. Like I hear about Samoans doing well in the Army. I see like articles on them. Others becoming officers. So I'm like, man, we are setting the example. That's one of our leadership traits. Marine Corps leadership traits. Or principles, not traits. Principles is you gotta set the example, and that's what we do. We do that across all the branches. I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and that's true. We do stand out, whether we're quiet and hiding in a corner or the rambunctious recruit. You will stand out and still get picked out in the crowd to get IT'd on the quarterdeck. We are, for all the potential recruits out there, the Marine Corps is very diverse. We are land, air, and sea. There are occupations out there for us to be pilots. work in the Marine Air Wing. We do get deployed on Navy ships and get detached to the meals and deployments. Yeah, any job you can find in other services, you can find in the Marine Corps. So, Staff Sergeant Porter, what do you think is the most challenging aspect of being a Marine recruiter, especially there in American Samoa?
I think, and this is just a personal observation of mine, I think it's being a female Marine recruiter. You know, it definitely has its struggles. I don't think a lot of people expect a female to represent the Marine Corps here. It's different. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't think they don't see it as often. We did have one female recruiter before. I think Gani Tripanier. I might have said her name wrong, but
Tripanier.
Tripanier. But yes, she was here before. She probably went through the same thing I did, but I think a lot of people just don't see the image of female Marines portrayed here that much. I know her sister was also in the Marines, but most Marine vet, Marines currently, the females are still outnumbered, Samoan females at that. I think they also, a lot of the applicants, a lot of, I guess, schools I talk to, they tend to like, hey, are you here for the Army? I'm like, no, I'm here for the Marine Corps. Because that's all they know. There's not a lot of exposure here. That's one bad thing about being the only recruiter is that there's no one to help me out. I gotta make time for every school, try to make sure I see them as much as I can. But that's just how the job works. The other thing too is trying to take care of your green side training. So all your Marine Net courses, your promotion classes, you need to take PT for our PT test, our PFT and CFT. I have to fly up to Hawaii or somewhere where there's a monitor that's able to track, the PT test itself. If there's no other option, I might have to just do one myself and just set it up. But most of it, we fly up to Hawaii to do all the green side training. And I think this is the same across all branches. Funding is always an issue. So, they would rather spend it on something else than having one person go up to do, what they need to do. The other part is taking care of medical. We all know the hospital here isn't top tier. So it's trying to find, the time to go take care of medical. That's why this trip to Hawaii, that's why I try to find time to take care of all of that. Whatever it is that I'm outdated on, what shots I need to do. Because if we go here, you're going to be waiting at the emergency room for maybe a couple of days. So it's just how I've always worked here. The processes here are different. So I do everything. As soon as I get off the rock, I just go and I'm like, hey, I need to see this doctor, I need to see this, do all that before I come back. But that's I think those are the biggest challenges. The job wise is not that bad. There is interest, but a lot of them are not qualified off the bat. There's definitely interest. As soon as they see something different, they're like, you know what, let me learn more about this. And that's one good thing about, not having that exposure. Someone's going to want to know about what you do. Someone's going to be willing to know about what you do. And I think those are some of the biggest. The other minor challenges, those are not, they're not in the radar.
Yeah, I know if Johnny was here, he would be talking smack about LBJ's medical facilities and everything. But I know our Samoan people, what can you say about the Marine Corps policy on tattoos and other forms of body art? Have you come across a lot of issues with tattoos in recruits?
Not recently. Thankfully, the Marine Corps changes tattoo policy. So like for us that have malu, sungai miki, those are allowed now. So anything lower body from the hip all the way down, you can have tattoos anywhere, regardless if it shows in PT uniforms. And then you can have a sleeve now. so long as it doesn't pass your wrist bone. So if you have a watch, if it passes that watch, you're disqualified already. And then on the hands, I think it's becoming a popular trend where they tattoo the ring band. So it's one ring band per hand. So you can have one of those. But anywhere else, neck up, can't have tattoos. I think that's still the same one since for that policy. But a lot of it has been, we've become lenient when it comes to tattoos. So that's a good thing. A lot of people are like, you know what? I wasn't qualified before, but I am now.
And have you done a lot of outreach out there in American Samoa? Like, how do you go out recruiting? Because I know at a time, Gunny Nofo, he did a lot of, I think it was football stuff to engage with the community.
Yes. So football is a great program, like even for like the junior prep that they have, because, those kids are fit. So it's a very easy, target to reach. For me personally, I like to go visit the schools. That's just me. That's how I work. There's also the prospecting aspect of recruiting where you have to make phone calls, social media messages, IG, Facebook, whichever, digital communication, even emails is still being used here. So, and you'll be surprised how a lot of kids reach out via email. I think this generation is very non-confrontational. So they try to get to me like in the most like outdated way of communication, and that is email, but still gets the work done no matter what. And most of currently most of my applicants or potential applicants are referrals. So my poolies bring in their friends, their cousins, brothers, sisters, whoever. But it all depends. Each day it's something different, something different, and a lot of office traffic. So sometimes I don't leave the office because there's just people coming in, parents wanting to know information, counselors coming in to ask questions, other potential applicants that come just randomly. They just show up like, I just finished work. I just have some questions. So it's like, I'm here. So I, like I said, that's the one bad thing about being the only one. If there's traffic in the office, I cannot leave the office. But there are times I have to make time to go out to the schools because, kids, at least 100 kids are in one place. I can talk to a big group, especially the juniors, seniors. They're the ones that are going to reach that age group. They're 17 to, mostly 17, 18, 19s. And, but that's how I work. I try to go to the schools as much as I can because I get to see them face to face. Some of them I think I'm intimidating, but I'm like, hey, that's what it is. You got to talk to me some way, somewhat.
So what would you say is the most efficient way to reach you if recruits or potential recruits have questions?
IG, Facebook is the most common right now. Like I said, they just want to ask me, over message before they actually see me in person. And usually when they see me in person, they just don't talk. I have to do most of the talking. So I was like, I think about it. I was like, okay, they're shy right now. They're shy. But later on, their personality started to bloom and they're like, oh gosh, okay, maybe I should have asked you all these questions at the beginning. I was like, yeah, I was waiting for you to ask me questions. But that's where the recruiting part comes in. You have to engage and try to ask them questions to make them talk, to give you something so you can actually work out off of that. They're like, okay, what are they interested in? And then they don't say anything for like 5 minutes. I was like, so what about, you want to be fit, you want to get what kind of technical skills, experience are you looking for? I have to keep the conversation going. They teach us at recruiting school different than how I actually work here. It's I just go with how it works here. I pull some aspects of recruiting school, but most of it does not work here. I'll be considered like rude, disrespectful if I do some of the things we were taught. I can't just approach somebody. I'm like, hey man, can I talk to you for a minute? They're gonna start like, why is she talking to me like that? So it's I had to, culturally we had to approach people a certain way. We can't just go up to them.
Yeah, I think for me, it was already intimidating approaching an adult. So for me, I was hoping my recruiters at the time would give me guidance of what I wanted to do, and I could relate on that aspect where you just sit there and think, because we're high school students, we don't know anything about anything, so.
Yes, that is true. It's scary. Not a lot of people will just walk into an office after being on the phone with me or texting me like, hey, I'm coming in at 9, and then 2 hours later they're finally there. The island time is real here. I think it's based on each kid. Some will come in and ask me all the questions, and I'm like, okay, I'm trying to catch up with him or her. But like you said, it's high school student, you're still trying to figure out life. You're trying to figure out what you want to do. So you're there for me to give you information. And that's why I give some of them like, hey, just shoot me a message later if you have any questions, or call me tomorrow and we'll go over some more. I know you're probably don't have any questions right now because you're nervous. But yeah, that is true.
Well, that kind of shy, stuck in your shell kind of a persona is actually one of the reasons why I've talked to some of my younger family members about joining the military and getting a military experience, is because specifically I want them to kind of be helped out of that, because young people, adolescent people, they sometimes they don't know what they're capable of. And the idea of growing up and going out into this big scary world is an intimidating thought sometimes. And so I was trying to communicate this to some of my nieces and nephews, saying, look, I was like that. I wasn't cripplingly shy like probably Michael was here, but there is that intimidation factor as you grow up. But then you go someplace and you got these big scary guys yelling at you, and you're like, oh, I miss my mom, I miss my home, and you think it's this big scary experience, but then you give it a few weeks and you're like, oh, you know what, I can do this. Oh, hey, you know what, I can live with this. And then you go through the whole process, then you're walking across that graduation field and you're just filled with all this confidence because you look at this thing that you thought was scary and intimidating, and now you're wearing this uniform and you're like, I did that. You know what, maybe adulthood is not so bad. And it's just one of these things that kind of gets you ready for your future. It's kind of like a nice cold water therapy. You just splash it on them, because some people never snap out of that very reserved, stuck in your shell kind of persona. And I know that for me, for many people, the military kind of helps them realize, hey, you know what, you're capable of more than you thought. And so if even just for that, I encourage people to talk to their local recruiters.
I've never been to American Samoa since I was there back in 2001, but that was just like to chill for a day before we flew out to, the west side. But do you have any facilities, for your coolies to work out in, or anything in facilities that you can utilize?
Wow. I was thinking my recent leave, I went to Wisconsin, right? And I went to this YMCA, big place. And I'm like, man, I wish we had something like this back home. It's, because the YMCA is catered to exactly that, youth, women's, children's. It's a place where you can do everything. PT, you can swim there, you can play sports there. But for here, unfortunately, that does not exist. We use what we call the OMV here. That's the Office of Motor Vehicle. It's this big field where they do the driving test, and it's open to the public. It's the reason why we use that area, because it is open. We don't use any gyms. I leave the kids to go to the gym if they want to, but as far as group PT, I use the OMV a lot. So we do a lot of body weight exercises. The Army Reserve Center has like a pull-up bar to the side. So we just go there when we do the IST of like, hey, we're going to walk over there, do pull-ups, come out, and we're going to start running. But we don't have any like necessary equipments to train. So it's all body weight. And if the kids want to go gym on their own, they can do that, but they will have to pay it for themselves. So that's why I'm always so proud, because we come from this place where there's absolutely nothing to train with. And we succeed in boot camp, we succeed with the bare minimum of, training. And I'm like, man, okay. But some of them, that whole Samoan life comes in play. Plantation, going to, work the fields, doing umu, like all those little aspects of our culture plays into that PT part. It's not just like, oh, you got to run. No, every kid has their own way of, working out, getting that PT in. Some of them is just a walk up and down, the hill. That's a workout itself. But if I gather them together, well, we're stuck with the OMV. The stadium isn't open all the time, or at least the time that we do PT. So we hardly use the stadium. I only want to use the stadium when we do the PT test, so I can actually see them running instead of like run and I don't see them and they start walking. So it's a matter of like, I want to see you run so I can start screaming at you to run and stop walking. But yeah, the good old OMV is the place to be here when it comes to our PT.
Yeah, I remember during my time, we were running on the streets, on the sidewalks. I think we used the Samoa field at one time for PT, but that was just it. So I'd like to ask our guest this question. Do you have any question for us?
Yeah. Well, this is one, I think, because I started doing these posts where I'm highlighting, Marine currently in and vets and retirees. It's pretty much, what is your advice to, potential future military / Marines, when they join, or what kind of advice would you offer them?
So this is a little piece of advice that I was given that I've gone back to over the years. This was given to me by one of my drill sergeants. So this is all the way back in 2005. But it's taken on different meanings over time. But I was told by this drill sergeant, this was Sergeant First Class Allen, you will get out of this what you put into it. And at the time, I just took that as basic training because, like I said, my whole life I thought I'm going to join the Marine Corps. And then as life panned out the way it did, I joined the Army, and I was going through the Army basic training and thinking this is not going to be the experience I thought I was going to get when I was younger, envisioning being in this spot. But I was told you'll get out of this what you put into it. And I took that as a challenge, like, oh, okay, I can drag my feet and meet a lower standard if I want, or I can put a bigger effort into it and maybe look back on something that I have a little more pride in. But it went beyond basic training after that, because I turned into my whole career where it's like, you know what, I may not get, on the front of the list for promotion. I may not be my commander's favorite soldier. That doesn't mean I show up and just drag my feet. I show up and I put in an honest day's work, and I've ultimately been able to carve out a career where I won't have the shiniest bells and whistles and things to look back on, but it is a career that I look back on and I'm proud of. And I've made relationships and friendships in it that will last for the rest of my life. And so it does boil back down to that piece of advice I got from my drill sergeant. You get out of this what you put into it. And so if anybody's considering joining, talk to Staff Sergeant Porter, because I'm sure she can point you in a good direction. And as you go into your career, just remember, you get out of it what you put into it. If you want to just be the bare minimum dude, and you might just get a bare minimum experience, but you can put in more and make memories that you'll be proud to look back on.
I would say never stray away from your Samoan roots, your foundation. It's easy to get distracted by a lot of things, especially when you leave American Samoa and come here to the mainland here in the U.S., you get distracted by things. You want to spend money on things you don't need. You want to go clubbing and drinking and just enjoy the life. Yes, you can enjoy the life, but be mindful of your person. Don't change for someone. Don't change to entertain or make friends. In Samoan culture, we're all about respect. Continue to respect those in authority. If they are doing something wrong and they are wrong, be respectful in the way that you approach them and correct them. Because you can still get in trouble in the Marine Corps if you outright try to correct whoever's in charge of you. The second thing is being uncomfortable. If you want to achieve something along your career in the Marine Corps, you have to get uncomfortable, step outside that comfort zone to make a difference. Especially once you become an NCO, you start leading Marines. You start making a difference in the lives of these people who are under your command. So those are basically the two things: stay true to who you are. Be safe, because I've had a lot of Marine friends who've passed away from, the party life. Drinking and driving, don't do that. Once we get out there, a lot of our Samoan brothers and sisters think that they're invincible. You're not. Drinking and driving is a no-go. It's a no-no. You take the lives of someone else, or you end your own life doing it. So that's my advice.
Hey, real quick, shout out to the Samoan Marine family legacies, the Elisaras and Ilawas. I've had the pleasure to know some of the children and even meet Sergeant Major Elisara and got to know him a bit. But for me, what I got to say, if I was to provide advice, be along the same lines of what Spencer and Michael already said. Samoan culture, we respect, we keep our head down and we grind, but you're going to have to step out that box a little bit, because we have a lot of talented, smart Samoans, so don't just put your head down and grind. Hey, seek to become better, get that experience that Spencer was talking about, and always stay ready. Like Michael said, enjoy that, enjoy some fun, but ultimately what my dad would always tell me is you're on call, when the nation ever needs you, and you can't really be at your best if you're a party animal like some people. And ultimately, those are two big things, man. Just step out that comfort zone of being that respectful, young person that you are coming out of the islands, just keeping your head down and being quiet. Because that was me, I didn't listen a lot growing up. I finally listened in the military, but I just put my head down, and I missed out on a lot of opportunities. And I believe our people, they need to be aware to go out and just take those, because they're capable, very capable. And just to keep it simple, that's all I got.
All right, that's awesome. Thank you. I'm sure, when my kids, my future Marines / police, will probably be watching this. We'll see, the advice that, everybody has given. They'll definitely finally, realize what I've been talking about. And it's, not just coming from me, but there's 3 other people. You know what? SSgt Porter always says this, and then, there's 3 more that are saying the same thing. Maybe there's something to what they're saying, not just words, not just words that are coming from one ear to the other. They'll use it. I know for sure they'll use it. And anyone who's going to be, potentially joining the military would definitely use them. They kind of have no choice. They have to. It's a given. And I just wanted to touch base on one more thing as far as coming back here, because, I grew up in Hawaii in my teens pretty much. So I missed out on a lot of the Samoan parts that, during that time I should have learned. I can still speak for thank goodness, thank God, I can still speak well. But all the other aspects, I'm trying to learn while I'm here. So, it's a challenge. That was just to add to that. The other question was trying to understand our culture at the same time while working. And, I'm like, you know what? I don't even know what to do when when we're going to Sangame, and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't know what's going on, but I'm going to learn. And, that's what being Marine is. We adapt to the situation and we go with it. We take it and we go. But those great advice. Thank you all for them. But I think that was the biggest question I have, because it's an important one.
Well, and on that note, real quick too, we're big advocates of, speaking to our community, our Polynesian community, but especially our Polynesian community in the military. So if you do have any recruits or people on the fence or anything like that, and they just want to pick our brains, I'm not trying to speak for every member of the podcast, but definitely I'm sure that a lot of us would be happy to answer any questions they might have specifically. Like, I can only speak on the Army side. I'm not going to try to gank your recruits, I promise. But pretty much we, not just those of us who are here on this episode, but we have a few members of this podcast that weren't here today as well, that I'm sure would also be happy to answer questions or share experiences if they want to reach out to us at all. Please consider us a resource in your favor.
Yes, there's 4 of us who are in the Marine Corps, 1 Navy and 1 Army. So we are there. We're here for you guys.
That's awesome to know. It's great to have that on, so that if there's anyone, I'm like, you know what, I got great people that you can ask these questions to, great resources, and it's knowledge is power. The more you ask, the more you know. So it's a give and take situation as well. So it's just a matter of asking the questions. There is no stupid question. I think there is no stupid question. But yeah, okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
I got two quick questions.
Oh,
My first part for you is, you're more a little grad, so I believe in you, and I can tell that you're very aware of things. So what plans or goals do you have in place to overcome some of the limitations and obstacles that you as a recruiter face now, that you can help ease for recruiters that will come in later to help improve the situation, instead of like, I'm facing this, but because of you or your thought process, even if you just spark it, like, do you have any plans or goals in place for that?
Yes, great question. I think with the way social media is picking up now, I mean, it's been picking up. I've been really good, or I'm trying to be really good at, exposing the new Marines, those who are going to recruit training in our own local, like, newspapers. I get feedback. They're like, oh my gosh, you put me on the newspaper. I was like, well, yeah, it's good for your family to see that. I'm trying to get good at posting accomplishments of anybody, as well, specifically to the Marines. Little things like trying to post at least 2 times a week. I don't think we were doing that before. We do have our own individual pages, but as far as like the office page, like the recruiting page, I kind of had to revamp that one. And I hope that it continues after I leave. And, my replacement is coming soon, so he knows what to do. And it's using that, because I get feedback from that. I get people like messaging me immediately after I post something. That like, hey, I want to join, what are the requirements? Can I take the test this week? It's a fast way to get word out of, the accomplishments, the successes of new Marines, potential Marines, even, veteran Marines that are currently in. It's just trying to get with, social media. It's just to upkeep that. We're kind of a little bit behind on technology here, but we're making it work, we're trying to take advantage of, trends, the good trends, not the other ones. And I think if we stick with that, if we go with it, and you guys will probably see all the other, Marine recruiters, Army recruiters doing like skits, little things like that. They're taking advantage of social media and they're getting great, feedback from everybody.
At what cost, though? At what cost? I don't know. Some of these Army recruiters make me cringe like really bad. I'm like, what are you doing to us? Like, I see these recruits that are showing up. I don't know if you're doing it right.
Yes, it's like most of them will be cringe, but they're trying to relate. I think the relevancy of it is the part they're trying to nitpick at. But simple things like posting a picture and then I get a parent responding to that same post like, oh, thank you, for helping my son, helping my daughter. And then I get, another message from a sister who's like, if it wasn't for you, my brother would have never left the house. It's little things like that. Trying to use that, take that, to our advantage. And it's a small island. Everybody is going to see those posts or, anything videos that we post. There's going to, it's going to circulate and then that generates the interest that we're looking for. And, but before we were I was like, do we have a social media page? No one had any idea. There probably was, but I had to create, the ones that we have right now from scratch. So if you see me posting, if you see something posting from PCS, AS American Samoa, that's me. On my recruiting page on Facebook, it's all me. But that's I'm just taking advantage of it. That's what it is.
Right on. And last but not least, let me preface this by saying, excuse my pronunciation if I get it wrong, but putting your recruiter's hat on the side a little bit. Why? So from the heart, from your soul, not putting down any other branches, but just telling the young person who's seeking to pursue the military, why the Marine Corps, why should they pick the Marine Corps, and why is it important to you as, Helenia Porter?
Yes, I gotcha. You got it. So taking, I'm new. I'm for me, deep down, why the Marines, right? I know I've said I joined because, my sister was in another branch, but it was more of trying to make sure I start a legacy. Before me, there was nobody in the Marine Corps in my family. I wanted to be different. I wanted to be different. And that's just by starting a legacy, even if it's just something as small as earning, the title. I mean, it's small, big, however you put it. I still earned it. I went and did that. Starting a legacy so that the next person, hopefully someone will continue me after. And they'll know from there, you know what? My auntie, my sister did this. Maybe I should continue so the next person can do it. And the next person, inspire that person, and then continues on. Because between me and the next person, I don't think they'll be in the Marines for a while. They're still very young. It's my nephews. And I already asked that question. What do you want to be? I want to be a Marine. I was like, okay, you got to wait 15 years. So it's a matter of legacy, trying to create that.
Planted that seed.
Exactly.
Well, you definitely you are leaving a legacy there in American Samoa, especially being a woman Marine recruiter. There aren't a lot of recruiters, in the past who've been in this position. Because I've only known of 4 recruiters before you. So, but thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you and your time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Behind the Lava Lava. We just heard from Staff Sergeant Helenia Porter, a Marine recruiter who shared with us her experiences and insights into the life of a Marine as well as the recruitment process. Staff Sergeant Porter's passion and dedication to her work was evident throughout this interview, and we are grateful for her and her time and willingness to share her knowledge with us. Her commitment to serving her country and helping others find their own path in the military is truly inspiring. As we close this episode, we encourage anyone who is considering a career in the military to explore their options and reach out to recruiters like Staff Sergeant Porter, who can provide valuable guidance and support. So once again, we would like to thank Staff Sergeant Helenia Porter for being our guest. And thank you for tuning in. We hope you found this interview informative and insightful. Until next time, Tofa Soifua.